School Committee will now come to order. Please call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Mrs. Cunha?
Present.
Mrs. De Benedetto? Present. Mrs. Kratz?
Here.
Ms. Listone? Here. Mr. Skerry? Here. Mrs. Mayor, present, Mayor Burke.
Present, 7 present, none absent. All please rise and salute our flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item of business, approval of the minutes of December 19th, 2016. Is there a motion on the floor? Motion. Mr. Skerry.
I had offered to dedicate the last meeting in the memory of Gene Barry, and it was not in the minutes, and I was wondering if it could be included in the minutes and the minutes tabled until next meeting.
You'd like the minutes to be tabled?
Yes, for that inclusion.
On the motion to table the minutes, which is undebatable, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The minutes have been tabled, subject to an amendment. Approval of bills, transfer of funds. Motion for approval by Mr. Skerry. Is there a second? Mr. Benedetto.
Just to clarify, there was a payment made to Mrs. Vanderkloot for the amount of $280.59.
There was a payment made to Mrs. Vanderkloot in the amount of, I think, $280.
$59.
The reimbursement for the travel that took place for the MASC conference back in November.
And I believe there was one to
Yes.
Mr. Skerry as well.
Okay, I just didn't see it.
Yep.
Okay. So that was the MASC conference?
Yes.
Isn't it usually paid for differently than reimbursed to you guys?
Ms.
I just
Vanderkloot.
I thought it was unusual that it was like a line item.
To get a better deal. I actually made my reservation first directly with the hotel because there was a time factor involved, and it was more cost effective.
Oh, thank you for saving us money then. No, it's just, it was an unusual
Right.
expense, so.
So I didn't charge it through the school system. I charged it on my credit card for that reason.
Perfect, thank you. Smart.
Ms. Cunha, point of information.
The reason that you haven't seen in the last few years is because actually Paulette and I had been paid for, our expenses were paid for MASC. Paulette and I are no longer on MASC as far as executive board is concerned, so that's why the reimbursement. And you haven't seen it over the last few years, that's the reason.
Is there a second for the approval of bills, transfer funds? Seconded by Mr. Benedetto. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Approval of payrolls.
Move approval.
Motion for approval by Mr. Skerry.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Vanderkloot. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Report of secretary. None. Report of committees. None. Community participation. Is there anyone wishing to speak? None. Okay. Report of the superintendent. Item 1, recommendation to accept gift to MHS robotics team. Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Mayor, members of the committee, our Director of Mathematics is here, I believe, and wants to present this from a gift. And also Barbara Chan.
Good evening.
Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. We are just very happy to announce that this year the robotics team has received a gift from Dr. Martinus Van Shore, the founder and CEO of Mighty Technology in Medford. He's offered a gift to the Medford High School robotics team, and this gift provides funds necessary for application to the ball tournament that will be held in the spring. And this is the 6th year that Mighty has offered their support to our students. Ms. Chen is here. She can explain a little bit of how the proceeds and the donation could be used.
The $2,300 mainly is for the registration and also some of the equipment. This new season is going to begin on the end of this month, January 27th. Then I'm going to ask some adults, volunteers, to start building the game table and then move forward. And the actual tournament is going to be on April 29th, Saturday, at UMass Lowell.
Oh, wonderful. Fabulous. Keep us posted.
Thanks.
Mr. Benedetto.
Due to the superintendent, could we please send a letter thanking him for supporting this group for the last 6 years?
Absolutely.
It would also be nice if some of the students could send him a note, because this is 6 years, it's consecutive, it's something that wouldn't happen without his assistance for all these years, and his dedication to the community is touching. And I really appreciate it, and if you see him, could you please convey that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to accept the gift? Motion to accept by Ms. Vandekloot, seconded by Ms. Cunyo. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Cunyo? Yes. Mr. Benedetto?
Yes.
Ms. Prince? Yes. Ms. Stone? Mr. Scurry? Yes. Yes.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. Motion passes. Gift is accepted. Thank you. Item 2, recommendation to approve MHS band trip to Orlando, Florida. Mr.
I don't
Superintendent.
see Haley
Yeah,
here. Is
Haley,
Haley here?
yeah, there she
okay.
is.
Okay. Come on up, Haley.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi. Could you tell us a little bit about the trip?
Absolutely. So the MHS Band has been invited to participate in the Disney Magic Music Days, which includes your marching band performing in a parade inside Magic Kingdom, and then as the concert band portion, you get to perform at the Downtown Disney floating stage, which is really cool. It's actually floats in the middle of this lake, and everyone has a big amphitheater. Everyone gets to sit and watch you. And then we get to participate in educational film scoring music workshops, where the students actually get to sit in a recording studio. They get to talk to actual musicians that play on the Disney soundtracks and recordings, and they get to learn a piece with a conductor, not myself, someone that works for Disney, and then they are able to actually watch the movie playing on the huge screen behind them as they get to play it, and every kid gets a copy of it, and there's lots of other activities that we can sign up for depending on what the kids are interested in. But
Very neat. Does the color guide go as well?
the color guard does go as well, yes.
Excellent.
Yep, and they march in the parade. They actually, there are specific uniforms that they have to wear, and Disney will also provide drum heads. So we'll change out all of our drum heads to Disney logos, and they're very specific on what we look like and how we act. But the kids are really excited, so.
Ms. Cunyo.
Well, I want to congratulate you guys for doing, finally getting to this place.
This is a big step for us,
It's a huge
yeah.
step. It's a huge step. Do you know
Not
offhand?
not a big enough step.
I know. Well, we can still step bigger,
pretty
but we're
fabulous.
getting there.
It's in the right direction. Could you tell me how many other schools or districts are participating in this? Is this across, because this is across the country?
It is across the country, yep. It depends. It runs all year, depending on, there's like different, there's a fall one you can participate in, a spring one, a winter one. I don't know off the top of my head right now how many will be accepted. We do have to apply once if it is approved. So we still have that round, but I'm sure from the sounds of it, it looks like we've already made it through the first level. So
That sounds great. How
Hopefully
many
it'll be the rest.
chaperones are we looking at?
right now I have it based off of 50 kids going, and that would be 10 chaperones. It'd be 5 staff members and 5 chaperones. The 5 staff members are going also act as chaperones. That does not include myself. I don't put myself as a chaperone because I consider myself in charge of the entire trip. So I don't have 5 students specifically assigned to myself. Everyone is assigned to me. And that way I'm also able to deal with any conflicts or any problems. So the students can always check in with their chaperones, and I am free to do things like take someone to the infirmary or deal with a problem, or so it's technically 11 adults and 5 kids and 50 kids. So it's 5 to 1 basically. not
And are the
myself.
chaperones paying the same amount?
They don't pay us the same amount as the students. They pay a little bit less. It should be in the packet. It's $1,533, I believe, for the students, and it's around $1,200 for the chaperones. The reason for that is Medford requires us to provide money for a nurse if needed, so the chaperones don't need to pay that cost. They also don't need to pay for things like participating in the workshops. The chaperones will attend the workshops with the students to make sure they are safe and okay, but they don't actually participate in the workshops, so they don't pay a fee for that.
Okay, and I know that it says that it has the insurance.
Yep.
So is the insurance, I mean, the details of the insurance, have they been over, like, have you sat down, or will you sit down with the parents and the students to make sure the details of the insurance itself? Because in the past, we've had a couple of issues that parents thought it covered one thing and then it didn't cover another thing.
Yep, our insurance includes, and will cover everything. We are requiring all of our students to purchase it in case of any problems, or in case we had to pull out of the trip last minute for some reason. That will all be explained at our kickoff meeting, which is March 15th, with the travel agency that we're using.
Okay.
So that will be, they'll have a whole sign-off on that. The parent and student will also have to sign off on it as part of their contract
Okay.
to commit to the trip.
And I'm looking at it, and I'm just going over, it says here that this includes the cost of providing a nurse, and I'm just curious, maybe through the mayor to the superintendent, I don't remember seeing this in other trips.
That's new. That's part of the new updated 2016, as of August this year. There's a new field trip packet. And
Okay.
it says in that packet that you must provide the cost of a nurse just in case one of your students medically needs one.
Okay.
So-
And what happens if we don't use that money?
Then that would get reimbursed to the students.
Okay. And are the students paying for this? Is it going to be out of their own pocket, or is there fundraising involved with this?
Yep, there's actually a fundraising schedule included in your packet. It is on page 19. It's the last one. So far, the students have only done one fundraiser. We have one coming up this month. But the band parents and I sat down last summer and figured out a way for the students to raise up to $1,400. So they can technically pay for their entire trip if they need to.
Sounds good. And
funds
the
allow.
only other question I have is, Mr. Siri might have the answer to this one, or Ms. Joy, which is, last year at this time, we actually had the science department take the students to Disney at this time, and I'm not sure if that's happening again this year.
They'll be back in at our next meeting, looking to go in February rather than...
Oh, it would have been
Okay,
nice.
So Audrey's preparing that, so
Yeah, all
we're
right.
keeping Disney busy.
Yeah, Audrey actually sent me an email to see if we can try to combine them, but I think her program only runs in February, and we really need to go in April because I have a lot of families that are driving down. All of our equipment has to be driven down 3 days before. We have to bring all the uniforms,
That's right.
all the music equipment and whatnot. So I don't want my band parents to have to drive like 3 days in the snow to try to
No.
get there.
I was thinking it was in April, but you're right, it was in February last year.
Yeah.
That's why. All right, but it would have been nice.
We have a
But
lot more baggage coming with us, so we're a little
Just
bit
a
bigger
little bit.
to
I've-
try to get down there.
I've been involved with that baggage.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to all, and
Thank you.
we're looking forward to hearing back.
Yeah, we're really excited to go. So.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
For it.
Ms. Vandekloot?
I think this actually goes to the superintendent. I'm not familiar with this clause that we've seen before, as my colleague said, about requiring nursing coverage in it. Can you speak to that at all?
The
Nursing,
nursing.
can you point out where we're talking about right now?
Well,
I'm
there
just
was,
trying to make sure I understand the question.
is it on the first page? Well, I saw it when I read. It says cost per student, and it's mid, and it says, this includes the cost of providing a nurse at $1,700. And when Haley spoke, she said that that's because in the new rules and regulations, if nursing is needed for one student on the trip, then the cost of that nurse is...
Well, again, you know, one of the things that we face, and we faced this a couple of times, is that we can't deny a person the right to go, and they may have needs. So as a result, it's important to have the possibility that we would have a nurse on there. But for the school system to assume that cost altogether undercuts our ability to fund or let's say sponsor these trips. So by spreading it out, everybody shares a little bit of that responsibility.
I don't know. Personally, I think that there should be a different way of doing it because if I'm the student on the trip who needs a nurse, and I know that the year that I go, it's going to cost my fellow students more money, that feels extraordinarily awkward to me. And so I don't think that we've looked at that. I'd like to sort of see if there's another way that we could approach this subject. I understand what you're saying, that what the issue is, but I'm uncomfortable with the way that this would work out. It seems to me that we ought to have some money aside, because you wouldn't want to have the rest of the students feeling like my trip is more expensive because I had to provide nursing for someone else. I mean, it's just not.
Well,
it's just uncomfortable,
so the
right?
way the Civil Rights Office would look at it is that if in fact an individual student, because they had a handicap or some other kind of need, had to pay more, that would be reducing access. That would be making it more difficult for them to participate. So that's one of the reasons why it has to be spread out. So the choice is whether the school system picks it up or we spread it out across the cost of the trip. That's really the only two choices you have. You have to have it as a reality. The question is that who pays? Is it spread out among all the people as a legitimate cost, or is it the school system that picks it up every time there's a trip?
Well, I'm going to ask that you bring to us the new policy that says this, so that we can take a look at it in its entirety, expressing my concern that this doesn't feel comfortable.
Okay.
I certainly have no reason to, it's not something that's going to affect this trip, so I certainly would make a motion that that we approve the trip this evening, but I would like to ask that we see that.
All right.
Just
Mr. Benedetto.
Just point of information to my colleague, working in another district. They do handle it in this manner, and it's usually not obvious to what child, and the nurse provides care for all things on that trip. And it's good to have, it's not just for the child with the disability, it's for any child on medication as well. If a child takes a prescription medication, you need to have a nurse disperse that. So it's not just this trip, it's all trips, and it's a regulation that needs to come forward. And most districts don't take on this cost because it would actually prohibit us, because we would have such a big line item for this that it would prohibit children from getting this opportunity.
Ms. Van de Kloot.
So if I hear what you're saying, though, then it's saying that on all trips, whether it's the trip to Italy or the trip to
Overnight trips.
or whatever, that a nurse needs to go because she's there to provide possibility of medical care for everyone. That's sort of different than the way it's been presented to us this evening, because I'm certainly sure that's, and I think that that's something that is incumbent on the school committee to discuss and make clear amongst ourselves in our policy.
Just to clarify, a nurse doesn't go in case of a possibility. So a nurse is required to go if there's prescription meds that need to be held and to be doled out. And it has to be a registered nurse in order to do that. You could not provide a chaperone to stand in that place to give those things. So if that's the situation, or if there is a medical condition, then that's when it's necessary to have a licensed RN on those trips. In the districts that I've been talking to about this, because this is a bigger, newer thing, and the nurses that are actually providing care, they need more notification so that they can, time notification, so they can get people ready to do that. It would be a huge cost on a district to put money in a line item for this. And it might shut down the amount of overnight opportunities we give to the students in our community.
Right.
Ms. Van de Kloot.
So I understand all of that. That's interesting information. I just think that the school committee should have the opportunity to discuss it a little bit further with the wording before us and the rest of the policy.
Will do.
Because it needs to be included in our policy manual if we've updated a policy.
Correct. Mr. Scarry, I believe you were blinking. You're all set? Mr. Benedetto, you had a follow-up?
I did. I was just wondering, since you're here, and I don't know if you know or if the superintendent knows, have the musical instruments been sold at this point?
No.
Has anything moved forward with that?
We've got some estimates on them that have changed since the last time, so I'll pursue that with people as to find out what the status is.
So you'll provide us with the report?
Yes, I'll give you a report.
Okay, and I'll add that to the list?
Add the report to reports due.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Cunyo.
So I guess through you to the superintendent, I also need a little bit more of clarification as we've been speaking about the $1,700. The $1,700 is money that the group, whoever is going to raise to cover the $1,700?
Well, that's something
child.
that
It's built into the per child.
I know that we ran into a problem. The band traveled to Hershey Park last spring, and a lot of the students needed medication. And because it was an overnight trip, we went for the weekend. The nurse that we usually have come with us is a band parent who is a registered nurse, and they come because NESBA requires us, which is the New England Scholastic Band Association, requires us to have a nurse with us at all times to travel. Unfortunately, through the new Medford policies, working with the nurse's office at the high school, it's a HIPAA violation if a parent is the registered nurse on the trip, because they can't know personal information about the other students.
Right.
So they had said they were going to put a new policy in place to work with that. So because I was the only Medford employee, I had to administer and pass out all of the medications on the trip for the entire trip. And carry with me. So they said they would be changing that policy, and what we had to do is send notifications home. I had to meet with all the parents. They had to sign off on something, a waiver granting me permission to do that. And now that they're saying moving forward, they would rather prefer to have a nurse on the trip, so that any medications or any problems or anyone that would need any kind of assistance, the nurse is with us, and then it wouldn't be a HIPAA violation, and that person would be kind of unbiased in any situations. So.
Okay, so I guess I have a couple of questions on this. One, it's going to be incorporated into the students'
Yep, it comes out to be like
fee.
$35 a student.
Okay, but now here's the other question. Who pays for that person to go to Florida or Italy or wherever? So is that, their trip is also incorporated into the students' fees?
The $1,700 is the cost of having the nurse come and stay in a single hotel room with a refrigerator for medications, and have access to the parks where the students are going to be every day.
Okay, so that's incorporated?
Yes,
so
so
the
that's-
$1,700 isn't just like...
Is inclusive.
Separate plus
Nope,
another
that's
13?
inclusive for the
Salaries.
entire trip.
All
But
right,
the salaries are separate.
okay.
The salary for the nurse, Mr. Superintendent?
I need to get that from Haley, I'm not sure about that.
All right,
When
so it's
we
all
request
included?
a full report for next meeting from the
Okay,
superintendent, more detail on
And then
that?
the
Okay.
other thing was that as far as insurance, okay, but this is separate, so
It's
forget
separate,
that. Okay, forget it.
Ms. Kretz?
Oh, yes. Hi, Haley. I wanted to thank you for the report. It was really detailed, and I wanted
Yeah, I get a
you
little
to-
crazy when we
It was
travel,
really, I know,
so.
in the meal summary, I thought that was really interesting, and I
Yeah,
wanted
if you
to
ever
know
go
if
to
you
Disney,
could
it's actually a pretty good
explain
list.
that, all the options that the students have and the allergy-free.
Yeah, well,
and-
Disney World can be really
Yeah.
expensive, so I think a lot of
Yeah.
parents get nervous at first, but it's actually very doable. So.
Yeah, and I just thought it was really nice that you had the allergy-free, like the gluten-free, metabolic disorders.
Yeah, we have a lot of allergies
dietary-
in the band.
Yeah, so I just thought that was really
Yeah, they're very
really
accommodating.
nicely done.
Thank
And
you.
and also there was a nice write-up about the rules and the guidelines for the curfew and no tolerance in the rooms and
Yeah.
going to bed at night, and so that was really detailed, and I'm sure you'll go over that with the parents at the upcoming meeting.
Yep, yeah, we have a kickoff
Yeah.
meeting on the 15th, and they have to sign off saying they've read the packet, understand
Yeah.
the rules and regulations. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scarry?
Madam Mayor, through you to the superintendent, I would ask that you secure a copy of the National Band Organization's guidelines when it comes to nurses on road trips to help us better inform us and to help us make a decision on how we will implement this into our policies for this school year and future field trips, overnight field trips for our students, and make sure that they're safe and secure.
Okay?
Very good. On the motion for approval, offered by Ms. Vanderklut, seconded by Ms. Cunyo. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Cunyo? Yes. Mrs. De Benedetto?
Yes.
Mrs. Kratz? Yes. Ms. Stone? Yes. Mr. Scarry?
Yes.
Mrs. Vanderklut, yes. Mayor Burke?
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. Keep us posted.
Okay, I will do. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Good to see you. Congratulations, by the way. Thank you. Item 3, recommendation to accept Tufts Neighborhood Service Fund grant to Medford
approval.
Family Resources Coalition.
It's pretty
Mr.
self-explanatory.
Superintendent.
Tufts Neighborhood Service Fund provides these funds to the schools. Will be used by our early childhood program.
So there was a total of $18,000 to distribute, and this Family Resources received $250.
Right.
There's a motion for approval by Mr. Scarry. Is there a second? Ms. Kretz? Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Cunyo? Yes. Mrs. De Benedetto?
Yes.
Ms. Kratz? Yes. Ms. Stone? Yes. Mr. Scarry?
Yes.
Mrs. Vanderklut, yes. Mayor Burke?
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. Acceptance of the gift. Item 4, recommendation to formally merge Medford High School and Medford Voc Technical High School into one local education state code. Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Mayor and members of the committee, you have a report in front of you. The headmaster is here. The director and principal of the vocational school is here. Tonight we'll give you a brief introduction, and then we should schedule a more formal meeting to discuss it in greater depth. But just to go over it so that you have a brief introduction and that you can ask any quick questions you may have of the two individuals, why don't you come on up and we can go over it. You know, as you know, we're currently in the 4th year of the process of having the two schools collaborate more completely together. And it's been a pretty high priority for the school committee because you've made that very clear that you want to see the two schools work closely together. And this goal would continue to expand the program, the comprehensive nature, and give opportunities to both students at the Voc and at the high school that were previously not available. We've advanced the program so that there's a lot of participation across the schools. At this time, the 9th and 10th grade students are fully integrated academically. Some 11th grade students are also integrated. High school students can now explore occupational programs and so on and so forth, a number of electives. So there are a number of benefits. I won't read the whole report. You get the idea. But if you have any direct questions you want to ask to the headmaster or the director, please do so, and then we can schedule a committee of the whole to move forward. It is important, if we're going to do this, that we move forward because obviously we need a plan going into next year. Okay?
Ms. Cunyo.
First of all, I have you both here, so I want to say congratulations for all the work that you, your staff, and everybody involved in this has done. It's been an incredible 4 years. As a school committee member and as a parent, I'm really happy and thrilled to see the collaboration between the two and to see that the division between the two is finally diminishing. As the superintendent said, I think this is a wonderful idea, but there were concerns. I had called him today because there's just so much to go over that we really can't do it in such a very short time. So I am thrilled that we have decided, or I'm hoping that we decide to do this as a committee of the whole, so that way we could have more presented to us, and that way we could sit down and actually go through the detail. I don't want to put hysteria out there saying that one school is taking over the other school. I want to make sure that people understand that this has been a work in progress, that the people involved are involved. It's not something that the school committee or the superintendent is throwing at you, or vice versa. And I also want to give the opportunity for people in our city to come and voice their opinion if they have concerns or whatever the situation may be. So with that being said, I, again, congratulate all of you, including the students, because I've seen the atmosphere change, and it's nice to see. So I just want to...
Are you making a motion to send to committee of the whole?
Yes, please.
On the motion, seconded by Mr. Scarry. Did you wish to speak
And
on
I
this?
also had a question through you to the superintendent. Given the complexity of this nature, Mr. Superintendent, are there any contractual obligations that have to be visited or reworked?
We believe that the nature of what we're proposing does not require any contractual negotiations. However, you know, from time to time the union may raise something, but we have vetted a lot with them, and I think that at this point in time, the issues that we have in front of you, changing the LEA code, would not fall into that category.
Also, Mr. Superintendent, through Madam Mayor, through you to Ms. Riccio and Dr. Perella, this is something that has, as long as I've been a member of the school board, that we've tried to bring to fruition. And I, as one committee member, thank you for your expertise and your tenacity in getting this done. And hopefully, if there are any more questions, we'll get them squared away in the committee of the whole, and we can get this enacted as soon as possible and keep everybody on the same page. And again, thank you very much for your due diligence.
Very good. Ms. Kretz.
Oh, hi. I just want to say congratulations, and I know how hard both of you have been working on this. And I just had one question. Would there be like a new name for the school? Like, would the school change names? Would it maybe something else? Or would it still be separate, like Medford High School and Medford Vocational or Medford Technical High School? Like, would there be a name change? I was just curious. Yeah.
That's definitely open for conversation. At the present moment, we feel as though it's important for the integrity of both schools to keep both names until it's decided upon by a much larger group than Dr. Preller and I.
Okay.
That is an option, that we could create a common name if we so choose, or if you so choose.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Benedetto?
Thank you. So since I've been elected, I've really focused on vocational education, and I saw the need in our thing, and I spoke day one, I think, to the superintendent about it. I really always envisioned one school with two programs, and the crossover, and the way that you and your team work together is really making that happen on a daily basis for all the children in our community. I just need to know like all the downfalls as well as all the benefits. I want to make a very educated choice. I don't want to rush into it because I'm sure there's some community members that value the old traditional vocational as well as others who, want the high school to remain the prestige that it's been as well. So I think the transition is going to be uncomfortable because change sometimes is. So I want to make sure that we really appreciate community input and really hear what our community has to say, because this is a major change for education in our system. So I really would like to make sure that all our meetings are posted clearly and that everybody is invited and all voices are heard throughout the whole process. I do see how well you collaborate together, and that right there and how open you are has opened the doors. And so I would like to see that continue, and I thank you for all your hard work.
Ms. Vanderkloot?
Hi. I had, for instance, some questions about the reporting of MCAS scores and other tests. I mean, for one of the things, actually, for the vocational school kids in the past couple of years when they've done so well, it's been nice to have them separate just to say, look how our students are succeeding. So I was sort of curious about some of those things. I also wanted to make sure that as we discuss this, that everybody understands that this is not a weakening of the vocational school in any way, shape, or at all, but in fact, all along, we've been working to strengthen the vocational school and our high school as well. And the collaboration between them is what we see does this. But it's not necessarily apparent, when you hear it, it could certainly be taken the wrong way. So I think that's why it's very, very important that we go and we have some more discussion on this so that we can very clarify this to our community about what our future intentions might be.
And if I can, I guess just say publicly, being the vocational director for the last 4 years, is that when I was hired, the intention was to bring the two schools together and to think and act more collaboratively, but also to recoup funds that was going to another district outside of this district so that the residents of Medford and the students of Medford can benefit wholeheartedly to strong vocational technical education. And I think over the last 4 years, the dedication of the superintendent and you as a school committee in supporting the vocational education and moving forward has been a significant value to the residents, but particularly to the students of Medford. And so opening 9 programs in 4 years is typically unheard of any other vocational school across the Commonwealth. So it's really the commitment that you all have had and the trust in me and our ability to be able to do that job and move that school forward. But it is equally important to offer those offerings to the comprehensive high school as well, because in any report, the Boston Herald, the Globe, in the last 2 weeks have had time and time again about a skilled workforce. And that skilled workforce is every kid in Medford, whether they're graduating with a Medford high school. By the way, all kids in Medford graduate with a Medford high school diploma. We do not separate between the name of the diploma, and I think that that's important for the community to recognize, is that we believe wholeheartedly in strong vocational technical programs, or else I wouldn't be employed. And it's important for us to recognize that all kids are going to go to work, whether they're in the biotech fields or the engineering fields. So we're simply opening up an opportunity for more students. We have 55 grade 9 Medford High School students taking career and technical education programs as an elective. and we want to be able to expand that. So I just wanted to say that publicly.
If I could add something as well, we believe that the continued integration will be at the benefit of both schools. So it will strengthen each school, and that's our experience. And we think that this technical move of creating a common LEA number will just strengthen that, what we've been doing for the past few years.
Thank you. Ms. Cunyo?
Yes, I just want to go back, and I totally agree with what my colleagues have said, and both of you, actually, all of us. I think it's important that we do have this committee of the whole, but also let it be understood that this has been a work in progress. This isn't something, and I have no intentions, and I'm sure we all have the same one, which is I'm not expecting to go into a committee of the whole for a couple of hours and have all the answers and shut the book and say, okay, guess what, this is what's going to happen. What I really would like to see is I would like to see, as we post the meeting, to make sure that we invite alumni, that we make sure that we invite not only our alumni as students, but our alumni who are now our businesses, because I know that there's a lot of collaboration between the high school, the vocational school, and our businesses right now. But really the input of everything, and we have to understand, as I've mentioned before, and the fact is that having the opportunity of being on MASC, I've also seen the opportunity of how vocational schools have been changing throughout not only the state of Massachusetts, but throughout the country. And we have always had a strong vocational school, and no one is saying that what we've done in the past wasn't right. We're just saying, let's go forward, because we all have to change. And change, as my colleagues have said, is a very delicate situation. And I think though, and I've had these conversations with alumni and strong people that have been affiliated with the vocational school in the past and said, what do you want to do? You're getting rid of our vocational school. This is not getting rid of one or eliminating the other. This is a collaboration that we've been working on for 4 years, and as a school committee, been working on it even longer than that. So again, the word out there, the rumors are going to start, the gossiping is going to start, but I want to make sure that people understand the integrity of what we're doing. And the integrity of what we're doing is to give the opportunity for our students to go forward. Whether they're in the high school side or the vocational side, it doesn't matter. We want to make sure that these kids leave our school with the ability of doing both, and also making sure that our students are proud when they leave, no matter which side they're leaving from. One is not a failure of the other. Many, many years ago, it was like, oh, you go to here if you can't be book smart. That doesn't exist anymore. Book smart is across the board. It's for everyone. And I tell students, I tell people that have known what our vocational school was many years ago that, well, why aren't our kids doing this anymore when they come out of the vocational? And I said, they don't have the time. Because before, you had the choice. You could do the academic, you did it, but it wasn't as strong or mandated by the state as we have now. And so our students don't have that opportunity. So I just want to, that's a really big thing for me, because we all hear it. And I just don't want those rumors to squash the good work that's being done. It's a work in progress, and it's going to take more than just one committee of the whole.
On the motion to send this paper to committee of the whole, offered by Ms. Cunyo, is there a second by Ms. Kretz? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion stands. We'll see you at committee of the whole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to just stay up?
I will.
Report on vocational and science department grants.
Madam Mayor, we have the director and the director
Director.
both here to tell you about some of the fabulous grants we're getting.
Who would like to go first?
Was it rocks, paper, scissors, shoot? No.
I'll be the spokesperson, but if you have any technical questions related to science, that would be wrong. Okay. Thank you, Superintendent Belson. School Committee. As we continue to integrate programs at our school, we actively pursue grant funding to enhance the educational opportunities for our students. This report will provide you with an update on grant activity between the vocational school and the science department. Massachusetts Life Sciences Grant. In 2014, we received $100,000 to support the new Chapter 74 program of biotechnology. These funds helped to support the biotechnology and equipment and consumable supplies that completed in 2016. The biotechnology program is now equipped with industry standard equipment and supplies to educate in biotechnology-related occupations. In 2016, Rocco Sierri and Sam Christie, who is a member of our engineering and robotics department, co-wrote a $100,000 grant for robotics and automation. The key to this grant is that it is directly related to the Massachusetts life sciences, so it could not just be for robotics or engineering. The purpose of this grant was to design and build robotic arms to serve the biotechnology program. The arms will be manufactured using some of the equipment requested from CNC machinery to a laser cutter and programming the arms. Students will learn all aspects of automation to be used in the life sciences occupations. Public notification of this will be forthcoming. This particular grant that Sam Christie is working on, it's very important to understand where the $100,000 is going to go. So as we develop more information, we'll probably give you another report. But the great part about Rocco Sierri and Sam Christie is that we could have spent $65,000 on one robotic arm that was manufactured by a manufacturer. Instead, the department opted to write the grant for $100,000 that would actually give the students the ability to build up to 20 robotic arms for automation. So each student will have a distinct opportunity to learn all aspects of the design process and using the CNC machinery from raw materials. And that's an important learning difference, comparatively speaking, to other funds that have been requested. The Medford Education Foundation, which was written by Sam Christie to support a student-initiated project. I have to say that 2 students were really the cheerleaders of this particular grant, and one of which being Miss Kret's son, Noah. They are both in the robotics, and Derek. They are both in the robotics program. They have been awarded $750 from the Medford Education Foundation and will support a student group to design, build, and test an underwater robot.
That's awesome.
It's very cool.
That's awesome.
Yes. This idea was actually formed from the integrated project between robotics and biotechnology for the filtration system as it relates to the current and existing tilapia farm. Students will connect with the Massachusetts Marine Trades Educational Trust to gain insight and knowledge of underwater robots throughout the learning process. So we have already contacted and connected with this trust fund, and those students are going to directly relate to real-world experiences by those connections. So while I will be CC'd on the emails that they send, the students will be doing all of the work. The Northeast Advanced Manufacturing Consortium for Electronics and Robotics Adult Certification Program. This is a partnership grant with the Northeast Advanced Manufacturing Consortium, Metro North Employment Board, and Bunker Hill Community College. A total of $48,500 was to be used to pay for the course materials, instructors, adult education coordinator stipend, and other related costs. 12 successful programs have occurred across the state. This is the first of its kind in the Metro North Regional Employment Area. There are currently 13 students enrolled. All adults have been queried for this adult education program and is scheduled to begin in March. Equipment purchased for this program will also be able to be used by our day students. The last grant related to science is the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center grant. This has a total of value of $13,750. This is Cool Green Power, who will work with our students in the HVAC and refrigeration shop, as well as electrical, to install and monitor efficiency devices in the following locations: rooftop units for the gymnastics and fitness rooms, health assisting lab with new high-efficiency system installed throughout the previous grant, vocational main office, and 3 walk-in coolers in the cafeteria, and a computer lab that has an AC system. Students will learn the installation and monitoring of industry-specific efficiency ratings. The grants written were authorized by multiple individuals in order to gain the expertise of those the grant will serve.
Each of these grants have a specific purpose and align with both the vocational technical education frameworks and the science, technology, and engineering academic frameworks. Integration of these standards deepen the understanding of how science relates to the application of technical education. Authentic learning and the positive impact it has on student success was taken into consideration during all aspects of the writing of these applications.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
I know, they're all very wonderful.
It's,
Very good. Is there a motion? Any questions? Motion to accept the report?
motion to accept the report.
Great work, by the way.
Just to say, I mean, this is amazing. This is really amazing.
Mr. Benedetto?
I did have a question about the students being on the roof. Is that the roof we replaced? Are we going to be very careful with that roof? Just be careful with students. There'll be enough supervising, not just a teacher with kids. Like, because, you know, kids toss around.
I was hoping just to throw them up there and see what happens, but
You know?
all of our students, on top of their technical education, also receive a construction 10-hour OSHA certification that is mandated by law. No student will be unattended at any time during any of this process because it really is driven by the instructional staff and the monitoring of the devices. Once the devices are actually installed, which will be installed under the direction of Cool Green Energy and Power, the students will be monitoring them, but they're able to monitor it remotely.
That's what I was hoping for.
Very good.
Awesome job.
Ms. Kretz? Did you
Oh,
wish
I
to
just
speak?
wanted to say thank you, and the students, you know, I've been hearing students are very excited about everything that's going on. So it's very exciting. I just hear all the good things every day. I'm so excited, So it's great.
On the motion to receive and place this report on file, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, before we move away from these two, I think it's kind of important to see. Here's two examples of the high school and the vocational school working together. Biotech was never envisioned at the vocational school. Environmental science was never envisioned as a vocational program because it was really a trade school. This is one of the evolutions that has taken place, and this is one of the results. And this is where both sides of the school need to be able to participate because it's equally valuable to whether you're pursuing a high school diploma as a high school or a vocational technical area. And this is kind of the thing we're looking at right now. And many of the jobs that come out, a high school graduate who knows this stuff will actually be able to go on and get a 2-year degree before they pursue either a 4-year degree. So there's all kinds of options that are coming out that didn't exist before when we had a more traditional alignment.
Great synergy. Very good. Report number 6 on this past one?
Just want
Ms.
to say,
Cuneo.
if possible, to both of you, if possible, like when the students are doing, I mean, I know you can't do it all the time, but is it possible to have certain things like videotaped that we could actually put it into a video and show it off and maybe even bring it to one of our meetings and see what's really going on an everyday basis without, I know the school is open for all of us to visit, and I know that we're all welcome. But and even though we enjoy doing that, I think sometimes the students might think, oh, there's other people watching us. Whereas if they're free and they don't have that type of, yes, they have to have the supervision, but not our eyes being there, that maybe it would be nice to see and have them even come in down the road after this is done and give their input.
Well, now that we have a media tech program fully approved by the Department of Elementary and Education, we certainly have that ability to videotape these programs in action. And that's something that we are considering through the public access station as well, is through the education component, is having monthly departmental what's happening in those departments, so the community also gets to see.
Exactly.
Because I welcome anyone to come into this school, not just an open house. It is a very cool experience. You know, it becomes your happy place when you go in and see what the kids are actually doing and performing. And we weren't able to offer that before. So the kids that are in robotics and biotech, the work that they're doing in there is completely unbelievable. It's beyond me, completely. But I also often wonder when I walk in there, what would have happened to those kids? Because we didn't have that program 4 years ago. Where would they have gone? And the creativity that is, they created this. The underwater robot was student-driven. It was not teacher-directed, it was student-driven. We have 3 high school students that are now taking advantage of the environmental science program, which we wouldn't have had before. And these kids are working alongside Tufts University and Harvard, so yes, we will start videotaping because we are at that point where the kids are doing some really phenomenal things and they should be recognized for what they're doing.
Right. Great
Thank
segue, by the way, to the station.
Look at the
Very good.
relationships. The earlier you saw a gift to the robotics club, they go together. I mean, these things have synergy. They actually fit together. That's part of the reason why you see them all on the same agenda, so that you can see the relationships of different activities, how they interact with each other. They're not just standalone activities.
Ms. Kretz, on this topic?
Yep, I just wanted to mention that Ms. Frazier is putting out the some small, short YouTube videos, and it's getting shared by the blog. Lisa Evangelista shares them. So anybody who's interested in signing up, I get the YouTube videos, and they're just fantastic. I even got to see just everything. I got to see Mr. DeLaver, and they were doing the geometry bee. Yeah, everything. Everything's out there. And today it was, teenage, don't drink teenagers, and they had the can video and just everything, the Christmas caroling. It was just wonderful. So there are videos that are out right now that you can watch, as well as all the pictures and the blogs and the write-ups.
Thank you, Ms. Kretz. Report number 6, report on elementary science curriculums 2017 to 2020.
So we have our assistant superintendent, buttressed by our director of science.
So Rocco's not going to get off so easy this time. He's going to get to the microphone. So in the past few years in elementary education, you know that we put a lot of time and effort and energy into making sure we had a great literacy program. We have Journeys and Envision, which is our math program. And now it's time for us to do some science work. So Rocco Cieri, who is our director of science, has prepared a report for you on the subsequent plans for the elementary science curriculum. These plans are in response to school committee's request to pilot new curriculum-based and the most recent science frameworks, as well as offering some professional opportunities for our elementary staff. So Mr. Cieri is here with us this evening to tell you all of the PD he has set up from now until the end of the school year for all of our elementary teachers, and not just the classroom teachers, but our specialists as well, K to 5.
Good evening, everyone. As you all know, the Board of Education adopted new science and technology engineering frameworks back in April of 2016. While some of the standards are similar to what was in place before then, there have been updates based on what's in the field, changes in science and engineering over the past 15 years, as you've heard from previous reports. There's a lot of integration that we want to be exposing our students to, and also adding inquiry and design skills that students need to successfully engage in these science and technology engineering disciplines. Based on the 2006 framework, what we notice at the K to 8 level is that there are sort of new ways of addressing the content. In one case, all of the standards are broken up by grade level. They used to be grade bands. They were also broken up by discipline. That's no longer the case. Each grade band, each grade has the 4 disciplines integrated right on the document. So these are changes that the teachers are going to have to be sort of made apprised of. There are also some reductions, but at the elementary level, there's sort of like a net increase of some of these standards, and we want to make sure that we're aligned with those increases, and also making sure that the teachers are comfortable with the new framework, familiar and comfortable with the new framework. In the coming months, professional development opportunities are proposed to revamp the K to 5 science curriculum, The first of which is going to be an unpacking of the 2016 curriculum framework. The document that's produced will serve as our local reference document so that when we review curriculum programs and recommend programs for piloting, we have something in place that reflects those standards. Students, in terms of the MCAS, are still going to be assessed in grades 5, 8, and at the high school. In this year, in 2017, the test questions are based on last year's, or the old frameworks, the 2001-2006 framework. A document which listed the exact standards to be assessed was developed by the Department of Education. That was emailed to principals on the 20th. It was developed probably at the beginning of this year and released by the Department of Education at that time, shared with the principals. And on January 25th, there's one of the professional development programs where we'll review those specific standards, tie them to the released questions, and allow grades 4 and 5 teachers to review these things to use them as assessments. So that's one of the PDP opportunities that's available on the 25th. In 2018, that exam, and over the next several years, we'll start that gradual transition from the old frameworks to the new frameworks in assessment. And so by that point, we should be completely integrated with the new and into the new framework. We've got several opportunities. There's going to be 2 introductions of the curriculum framework. One will occur in March, another will occur in May, and we'll continue these next year as well to make sure that people are familiar with those frameworks. And we have 2 other sort of larger professional development opportunities. One of them is to unpack the standards, and that'll be occurring from the beginning of February to essentially the end of March. Once that document is created, we will begin a second professional development committee, which will look at curriculum programs that are available for science. In that particular program, there's for the teachers, there are PDPs, but this also involves we can have members of outside community groups participate in that because the vendors will come in, share their programs with us. We will have certain standards that we want to look at and then also have some input and questions at that time. Then we'll review all of those programs and decide which ones we'd like to pilot for the following year, 2017, 2018. And then by the end of 2018, we should be able to select one for implementation. Through 2017 and 2018 and beyond, you'll notice that we're going to have to look at content instruction, how to use the program that's chosen at the end of 2018, what kind of pedagogy is most appropriate for the curriculum programs, and also targeting some of the key content in earth and space sciences, life science, physical sciences, and technology and engineering. I realized that at the last school committee meeting that I was supposed to present at, you got a lot of opportunities. It will be very similar in terms of what kinds of opportunities we'll be able to provide for professional development to the elementary school teachers and staff members. So moving forward, those relationships we've built with these organizations don't disappear. They only get enhanced and sort of amplified. We're sort of at the beginning stages of this process.
Very good. Ms. Vanderkloot.
So can I ask, is there, I think there's a little bit of a problem here because as you're talking about standards, the committee is not familiar enough with each of the standards or knowing. So it feels distant. And obviously our concern was that we would be improving elementary science education so that it impacted students quickly. Mm-hmm. Within this, are there, for example, more hands-on activities for students, and are those?
So it's a great question. Certainly, as we review and unpack the standards, we want to look to what kinds of materials are available currently in our curriculum that we can reuse. Many of the activities that are present in future activities will reflect a need for materials. And so we'll be sort of looking at that. I'm working with Donna Lasky to identify some of those places where materials are necessary, hands-on activities, and that will allow some of those activities to happen in the interim. And then the longer-term plan, which is the purchase of a program, would need to occur as well. So it's embedded within these activities that teachers also get some professional development on what kind of activities they can perform with their kids.
Do you envision any sort of science nights where parents are being brought in and helped, how they can help their kids with science education the way we do for math and literacy?
Yes. Those are going to be additional opportunities.
I guess I'm just a little bit concerned. I was speaking with a group of parents, and they told me that their child had never had a hands-on science activity. And so, I felt such an urgency. So that's part of what I'm trying to grasp here, of trying to say is, okay, how are we going to meet those needs sooner? So that's what I'm concerned about.
So, Madam Mayor, if I can, as you know, the Envision series will be paid for. So as a result, our next budget will allow some funding that was previously assigned to Envision, and then previously before that to Journeys, will now become available for science. That's our next priority. And that was what we discussed at budget last time.
Ms. Mustone.
Thank you for being here, and I'm glad to see there's an outline. So from the little that I've learned so far in curriculum development, so the curriculum committee, it's the third paragraph down. Mm-hmm. Did you pick the committee, or do people volunteer to be on the curriculum committee?
So So unpacking the standards for the Science and Technology Engineering Curriculum Committee, that's available on the Medford Public Schools PD website, and individuals sign up for that. It's not
so will that not be the group that will actually pick the curriculum that we finally put into place September of 2018?
That would not. They are unpacking the standards.
Okay.
It requires teachers to be familiar with those standards to be able to then speak to which programs best match the standards.
Okay.
So teachers will provide you with input on which standards align best with the programs, or which programs align best with the standards. There's other people that have to provide some input in that. And I'm sure that school committee members and also community members would want to participate in the fourth one down, which is reviewing curriculum programs, where people would come from the vendors, explain what kind of program it is, and then we can ask questions of the vendors themselves.
Okay. How many programs do you expect will be piloted that are out there that are somewhat matched?
We hope to narrow it down to 2. I don't think more than 2 would be a good idea.
Okay. So I think I'm frustrated. I hope I'm not appearing too frustrated, but I was hoping for September of 2017, because my kids at the Roberts have books that say 1983, and I feel like since my oldest, who's now in 8th grade, I can bring the book. I've been talking about science, and I know we kept on waiting for the frameworks, the state kept putting it off, Now we're here, and it seems like I understand it's a well thought out plan, but in the meantime, so we have the whole year of 2017 to 2018 that we're still stuck with this very old science curriculum. So I guess what Paulette was saying, is there a budget that we can do to have more hand-on that, Ellery Klein has written to both of us about kits that you can bring into classrooms for teachers.
So Rocco has brought in kits in the past, and like I said a few moments ago, the availability of funding, now that Envision is paid for and Journeys is paid for, now moves to science. So Rocco will get first crack at those dollars that have been previously assigned to
So that's for this September 2017?
For going forward.
Okay.
Going forward.
And you just stepped into this role, so you weren't around when Quinn was in first grade, So I feel like it's not you that I'm really frustrated with. It's the science curriculum for the past 8 years.
Well, at the elementary level, the science program has not been everything we want it to be. But you can see at the upper grades, based on some of the discussions that you've seen, science has taken off in a very, very robust way. But this one of the discussions we had was to make the elementary science program a priority going forward, with funding available that can be used in the next fiscal year, and with a game plan to review it against the standards, I think you're going to see quite a bit of material going in there. But the material that's selected will have to be things that we know will match up with the standards and with either one of the 2 or 3 curriculum programs that we would adapt. I mean, when you, for example, if you're looking at thermodynamics, you're looking at heat and cold and the impact on matter, okay? You can have kits that demonstrate that aren't going to be contradictory to any program. And you can do those things. You can have botany programs that aren't going to contradict any program. But you won't get the exact program until people actually review it. But you will get the opportunity to have additional materials at the elementary level based on our budget allocations next year.
Okay, so how do we plan over the summer to have kits come into the schools for that
Well,
1 year?
this is where, if Rocco knows that we are going to allocate, which he will know, we're going to allocate those funds, he will start identifying those items with teachers and letting us know so that we begin the purchasing process going into the summer and possibly running some workshops.
So you're giving Rocco the authorization to ask science teachers to look at kits
Right.
to purchase?
Right.
Okay, everyone heard that? Okay.
Who didn't hear it?
I'm hoping that the process that we've identified will help us work with teachers that are interested in doing so, and also community members. So it seems like it's a very slow, but I feel like it's pretty accelerated. We've got 6 months to do a lot of work, and hopefully by next September we'll have something pretty concrete to offer to the children.
But no, it's a year and a half out. It's September of 2018. No, you're saying this.
Not necessarily, because you would put in place some things that you know are going to work, that are identifiable. So you wouldn't.
But the curriculum won't be chosen. The new program won't be chosen until September of 2018. So we still have a school year between now and September of 2018, right? This coming September is September of 2017.
The final program selection won't be until 2018-19, but
Right.
the curriculum based on standards and based on new materials will be available next year.
And what will happen is we'll be piloting a few programs. These pilots offer materials for our staff, so we will have the materials.
Right, but just like in Visions and Journeys that my kids piloted, some of my kids piloted the program and other classes didn't, and we're stuck with the older curriculum for that school year.
Well, I believe that we'll have 2 different pilots running simultaneously with the science. So
for
that
every
all-
class, because
yes.
only certain classes got picked to pilot in Visions and Journeys. Not every class did those.
Well, teachers chose after looking at them what they wanted to pilot in Envision and Journeys. But every class should have one of the science curriculums to pilot.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Point of information, Ms. Cunyo.
For members that, I know it's kind of thrown at us, and I know being a little bit newer on this process, it's harder to understand. But just to explain, I know that with the map that you just talked about, when this all came about, we were basically in the same position that we were in for the math as we are now for the science. And what happened is the department heads and the teachers collaborated. They sought out the information that they were looking for. Even though the curriculum didn't change until the following year, it was presented to us around budget time. It was presented to us prior to budget time, so that way we could actually allocate how much money we're going to put towards the program. And then it does take a component of everyone. So as Ms. Caldwell said, it wasn't that we chose as a school committee which classes were going to do certain things. We also gave the opportunity to the teachers that work on the subject on an everyday basis, that they decided what they wanted in their classroom, and at one point in time they thought each group was different from the group next door. So as far as I am understanding it all, it's a very similar process, even though it might not be the academic year of 2018, with us knowing what has been brought to us by the state, and with the work that the department heads and Ms. Caldwell are doing, they're going out, they're seeking out the best possible programs for us. Then they will be bringing it back to us, and in the meantime also reviewing it with the people involved. So there's a lot of components to it, rather than just saying this is what we're approving and that's that. So if that was beneficial.
Are you all set, Ms. Stone? Mr. Benedetto?
Thank you. So just to clarify, when we piloted the math and the English, certain grade levels were picked and certain classrooms were picked. Not every single classroom piloted those items, or one or the other. Some had none. So what I want for clarification, when we're piloting in 2017, is every elementary classroom going to be piloting?
I'd say yes.
I would say yes, too. It's hard for me to believe that no one piloted. I know that personally, when we were piloting our literacy series and our math series, I can't think of a teacher who didn't choose one to pilot, because what we were currently using at the time was everyday mathematics, and none of the teachers wanted to stick with everyday mathematics. They wanted to choose one or the other to pilot.
So another question. Okay. So the companies that are piloting with us and giving us their programming to review, to pick, are going to provide us with enough materials for each and every classroom and each and every student. One or two of those.
That is our hope. We are going to try to do that, yes.
And that's what happened in the past? We got enough material for every single classroom, or did we share it?
So, Mr. Benedetto, when I was looking at the Journeys program and our math program, if a teacher or a classroom wanted one specific program, they were allowed to use that program. Most of the teachers did not want to stick with whatever they had before. So, yes, it's our hope that each of our teachers in each of the classrooms get to pilot one or the other before a decision is made.
That's great. I think that's wonderful. I just didn't think it was that clear, and I'm very happy to hear that every classroom will be piloting a new science curriculum program. I had some other questions about, so since we have these new standards, what are we doing now this year? Are we taking what we have and changing it up, or are we waiting for the training? And is the training required by all of our students?
If it would be very difficult to switch over right now.
Okay.
Because the students that are in grades, potentially grades 3 through 5, could still see the old framework standards on their test. So to move to those immediately could be problematic. Right now, the teachers they've been asked to stay with the current standards that are in place, which are the 2006 standards, according to Medford standards. So that's what I've suggested to teachers. In the coming year, there will be some changes, and it will make sense at that point when teachers are piloting that we should be able to find a program that matches. If we have any standards that are found in the new frameworks it looks like there are more framework standards in the new than there are in the old, so my guess is they would be covered. The kids would be covered by that point.
Okay. And as far as professional development is, I know it's encouraged for our teachers to attend, especially with so many changes in this department. Are we making any requirements in their evaluations or in their goals or their SMART goals? That's not to you through the superintendent. What are our expectations for our, wonderful teachers to make sure that they receive this professional development or they show up at it?
Well, every teacher has their own evaluation, and they set up SMART goals and they set up individual goals. And, obviously you try to encourage them to take on goals that are going to advance their capacity to help their students in their classroom. But, there are so many different areas for an elementary school teacher to be involved in, many of which these things are tied to differentiated instruction, working with youngsters who have other needs and the like. The content areas, really vary based on the expertise of the teachers as to which ones they would spend more time with. But certainly, something as important as this, will get greater emphasis in our discussions with the teachers. I mean, there are many things that teachers need to be competent in.
My experience is teachers are really good at certain things, and science is like math or English, and and then, some are really good in history and social studies, and some are exceptional, and maybe we can have like mentor teachers through this process to help those that struggle with this a little bit, and just, our lead teachers, whichever way you want to describe it, so that way we use the people that are extreme, that find this natural, and let them share their knowledge with the other teachers and help them along.
As you know, there are at least, in most instances, 4 sections in each elementary school by grade level. Sometimes there's 5. And generally within each of those groups there are people who have expertise in different areas. So it's important that we emphasize that they share with each other and that they work together. And we've done that right along, but we need to perhaps emphasize that a little bit. The people that are more akin to a particular subject matter like science, that they step up and serve maybe as a little bit of a leadership role for the other members of that grade.
So I'm actually encouraged when I walk around to the different schools by the number of teachers who are excited by the new science standards and have been asking me, when are we going to do some work on this? And then Rocco put together this schedule. So I think that we're going to find a lot of teachers very excited about participating.
Right, I'm sure they're dying for new materials.
I'm sure they are too.
And new things. Thank you so much for your time and effort on this. I know when there's new standards brought out, it's a tremendous amount of time to see what we have that works and what we need. And I know it seems like a very long time for this process, but we also need to plan the money for it because we want to fund it well. Thank you so much.
Motion to accept the report and place it on file?
Second.
On the motion to accept the report placed on file, seconded by Mr. Benedetto. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 7, report on WIDA access testing for ELL students. Mr. Superintendent.
So, as you know, we have to test our non-native language speakers, our ELL students, every year under a system, called the WIDA testing. And our director of ELL is here to go over that with you. It's now underway. It's going well. But we want to bring you up to date in case you hear these terms and you want to know what's going on with regard to access testing and how it works in terms of the schools. So Leslie Trotter is here.
Good evening. So we are in the midst of testing. We started at the McGlynn last week, and today we started at the high school and the Roberts. The other schools will follow suit, and I think in the report I gave you, you have a schedule. So I just want to give you a quick rundown so that you do understand it a little bit better, because there is some confusion, it seems, about this test. So all schools except for the Andrews will be testing. The Andrews is the only school in the city that doesn't have an ELL program. And so this is a mandated by federal and state law test. Federal law mandates that all ELLs across the country will take a test to determine English language proficiency, all the ELLs. And so we are part of the WIDA consortium, Massachusetts, and many other states are as well. So the WIDA consortium states give the Access 2.0 test. Other states choose a different comparable test. Our window for testing in Massachusetts is January 5th to February 8th. The test measures, as I said, the English proficiency level of ELL students. There have been so many acronyms over the years that I've been teaching ESL, ELL, bilingual, whatever you want to call it at the time. So now they're switching over to EL as of next year. So you might hear ELL, you might hear EL, they're the same thing. The results are very important. They determine the amount of ESL service a student receives each day, and it also determines whether a student can exit the program or not. They have to reach a certain benchmark to be able to exit the program. According to data put out by DESE, last year 72% of our students made progress in learning English. The state designated the district target as 52%, so we were well above. And they also designated our target for attaining English proficiency at 17%, and we reached 31%. So we did very well last year. We're testing approximately 425 students. I know that is a different number than what you have, but our numbers change literally every day. One poor little girl at the Roberts entered today and had to take the test. So luckily, they mostly don't mind doing it because it's on a computer and it's pretty interactive. So the little ones particularly are quite engaged. The only paper versions that we're using this year are the kindergarten tests and the Access Alternate test for the kids with severe disabilities. So those are the only paper ones. So far, it's really gone quite smoothly. We've had a few tiny little issues, but nothing that couldn't be resolved very quickly. And that's thanks to really a lot of legwork by my administrative assistant, my assessment specialist, the technology department, the test coordinators at each building. It's been a group effort, and it's going really well. So yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say. I mean, I could thank a whole lot of people, but I don't know that I will spend time doing that. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Is there a motion to receive? Motion to receive and place on file this report. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Trotter.
Great. Okay.
Item 8, report on technology infrastructure study for capital planning and E-rate fund acquisition. Mr. Superintendent.
So as you heard about ELL or EL, and the use of technology and the use of technology and with regard to our other programs, science programs and the like, one of the most important initiatives that we have to launch in this district is to upgrade our technology network infrastructure. In order to be eligible for substantial Tier 2 E-rate funding and related grants, we have to complete a study of our current network infrastructure, which will then guide our applications for funding and ensure that we efficiently and effectively identify and target the critical elements of our infrastructure. We're eligible approximately for $400,000 of federal entitlement funds, which we then have to match with an additional 40% at this time. This funding would then supplement local capital funds and other available grants. The funding is available this year. We cannot guarantee that going forward, given changes in Washington and other places, that the money will be available in subsequent years. So it behooves us to go get it now. It's imperative that we act now for multiple reasons: the availability of funding, the overall demand for technology for both instructional and administrative matters, the increased requirement to implement computer-based state testing, and planned initiatives for online coursework and remedial credit recovery programs. Further, the purchase of state-of-the-art hardware and software must be supported by a network infrastructure that is sufficiently constructed to enable simultaneous high utilization and to filter out cyber malware consistent with CIPA standards. CIPA is the Computer Protection Act. The study must provide us with detailed information, an independent assessment that is free from internal bias, which we tend to have. Everybody has a different idea of what ought to be done. Our programs and services are becoming increasingly dependent upon a robust and reliable internet and intranet capacity. So we selected TechEdge of Cambridge to conduct the study and provide us with ongoing support. TechEdge is our current E-rate consultants and have done this for a period of years. They are also the E-rate consultants in the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, Massachusetts Instructional Technology, Informational Technology, Massachusetts Department of Youth Services, and over 20 Massachusetts school districts. And they serve as the technical consultants to the DESE Office of Digital Learning for Digital Connections Partnership Grant, which is another grant we'll go after, which is an important grant, and they're their consultants.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
So anyway, you know what's in here. If you agree with me, we need to go forward. We want to get this done so we can apply and move it forward.
Ms. DiBenedetto.
Thank you so much. So, with reading this paperwork, my understanding is that the study is going to be at a cost of $33,150, and that's what we'd be approving this evening.
We'll be approving Tech Edge, approximately that kind of money. We don't think it'll exceed that. We think it may be less than that. And it'll be paid for by funds that we acquire.
Paid for by what funds?
E-rate funds that we acquire.
So
from
out of
there.
the 400,000 that we require?
Out of the funds we
Acquire.
currently acquire from E-rate.
Oh, okay.
We'll get about $60,000 this year.
And so was that already in our budget?
Yeah, that's something I
Do you
planned for.
utilize for something else?
No,
or
I
did-
planned for that.
Okay. So does it have to go out to bid since it's such a high
No,
thing?
their contract, they have a state contract to provide this service.
Okay.
So we can avoid that and we work with people that have knowledge.
And we have been working with this
Right, this
organization.
is the company that
several
we work
years.
with.
They
Okay.
had a lot to do with our last capital projects that we did for the computers in the school system.
Great. So I have another question. I really believe that we need to always invest in this, and we are definitely need to move towards this because of all the new testing requirements. But I just want everybody to be aware, when we get the $398,000, we'll also have to bond for the $250,000, the 40%. So we need to start communicating with city councilors right away about this program. Has any of that started yet?
No, we'll do that, we'll begin that process as we go forward from this evening. You know, we can then acquire the company, and then we'll put together a package for presentation.
My concern is that we'll pay the $33,150 and then not get approval from our council or support at this time for a bond of $235,000 to make this.
Well, I have to believe that the Medford City Council will be supportive of enhancing technology in the schools. I don't believe that they would be less than supportive of something that would provide us with close to $400,000, position us to get additional dollars, and allow our students to have the latest information capacity.
This is my point, is that we need to collaborate, just like our high school and vocational school does, with the city council on projects like this. And a meeting of both boards, when this comes forward, is never a bad thing, opening up that communication.
We'll leave that to you, but I think the reality is that we need to put together our plan. We need to come in and say what we're going to do, and then we should be asking for more than just a match for this.
And
This is only
if
the
I
beginning.
could, from the chair, we did submit the list that originally came to us, that the superintendent and all his department heads put together. That was given to the city council, so they're aware of the cumulative list that the superintendent put together.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it actually goes all the way through. I just want the whole community to know how much we're spending and what we're approving tonight. Like, I want to name it, and so that way people understand it is going to cost us $33,150 to do the study, which could give us the opportunity of receiving close to $400,000
And more.
in money to upgrade our programs. And yes, we did just upgrade them, 4 years ago, but it's a continual issue.
We need to continuously do
Refresh
this.
is passed.
Right. I think it's a great program, and I think any way that we can get stuff 60% funded is excellent. I just want to make sure that we're ready to answer any questions that our counselors have, so that way they're in an open, respectful way, because, you know, there are other things on their caseload other than just this, and I want them to know that this is a priority for us. And I wanted to know who will be overseeing this project, like.
Well, the project will work with the consultants. I mean, they'll report directly into myself and to Christine, the business office, but we'll work closely with Alan Arena, who is our network, and Richie Trotter, who is our instructional media supervisor, and all the other people, Molly Layden, who works on our special projects, and all the support staff in the technology area, as well as the department heads and the like who know what they need for their particular areas. So they'll be interviewed, and all their input will come together in a report.
All right.
So this report will reflect not only what, you know, the actual inside network does, but also what people believe they need.
So I second Mr. Scarry's motion to approve this. I just wanted to really be clear as to how much money we're spending up front.
Yep. On the motion for approval of expenditure of the funds to use Tech Edge for E-rate technology upgrades and studies. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Quinn, yes. Mr. Benedetto?
Yes.
Ms. Kratz? Ms.
Yes.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. Update report on new public records law and appointment of MPS, Public Records Access Officer. If I could, prior to the superintendent speaking, there was a change in the law this past year. It was set to implement 2017, which is why this is before you today. And I just wanted to go on record that we are required to have a records access officer named for the city. And because of the size of our community, we felt it was wise to have a city person as well as a school person that's responsible for all the Freedom of Information requests that come through our doors on a daily basis. So we have named Kim Scanlon, who's Assistant City Solicitor, as the RAO for the City of Medford, and the superintendent would like to announce his selection.
So we're going to appoint Alicia Palmer, who works in our human resources area with the Director of Finance and Administration, to take on that role. Alicia is very computer savvy. She's extremely diligent and capable of doing this kind of work, and that's where we're going to go with this appointment. And we believe that there's a lot involved here. We've already started to get some requests across our table, and they need to be responded to very quickly, and we need to have the capacity to do that. Naturally, no one person does things. The individual coordinates other people. So if something's requested from a department, that individual needs to get on that department to get the information, pull it up, coordinate it, pull it together, and ship it out in a timely way.
They will be the gatekeeper, though, to make sure when requests that come in, answers go out. So it'll organize the process. Right now, you could send it to any department head, and they're doing their own Freedom of Information requests. Mr. Benedetto.
How will this affect our budget, and where are these funds coming for the increased cost in this person's position?
It won't affect our budget that much. I mean, we're talking about approximately $5,000 of annual outlay to do this, plus any costs associated with the production of materials. But we can charge individuals making the request, and we will recoup a substantial portion of that cost over time, because as individuals request items, we will appropriately charge them. If an individual requests a simple couple of documents, that's one thing. But if an individual requests any kind of work, we're going to be charging them at the rate that's allowed by law, and also for the paperwork and production that's required by law.
As a follow-up question, is this an appointable thing, or do we have to open it up to all staff to apply for this?
It's appointable because the individual's not part of a unit, and they don't have to be bid within a unit, and that's why we're keeping it close to our office so that Kirstine and I can monitor it very closely, because obviously an individual getting a request would have to know what can be asked, what can't be asked, and we will also provide training. We're also going to run some training programs so that everybody is really on top of this. This is one of those things where there are fines if we don't do it.
Mandatory.
So we need to have everything properly set up, and we need to have an inventory and an archive for everything we've responded to.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor for approval. Ms. Vanderkloot.
No, I'm good. Do we need a roll call vote for this one?
I would.
Okay.
Seconded by Ms. Vanderkloot?
Yes. Okay. Ms. Cunha? Yes. Mr. Benedetto? Yes. Ms. Kretz? Yes. Ms. Stone? Yes. Mr. Scurry?
Yes.
Mrs. Vanderkloot, yes. Mayor Burke?
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, motion passes. Report on impact of weather conditions on outdoor recess policy/practice. Mr. Superintendent.
So, Madam Mayor and members of the committee, we did get some inquiries from people about why we didn't always let students out, on recess and cold days. And, I've tried to provide something that would give us some guidance. And I just try to go through it a little bit, because I think some people think that, there's one universal thing you can do. You can't paint this with a broad brush. Days are different. It's not only temperature, it's wind chill, it's ground conditions, it's disabilities on the part of certain youngsters in certain situations that take place, it's timing, and there's so many different factors that come into play. But recently, some elementary parents have raised a concern that students were not allowed to have outdoor recess on certain cold weather days. And we all recognize that recess, and we've talked about this many times, is an important element of the school day. It provides an opportunity for students to get a break from academics, to burn off excess energy, and get some exercise. Current time and learning regulations, as well as curriculum demands of the school, limit the amount of time we can currently allow for recess at this point. Outdoor recess is certainly desirable in most instances because it changes the environment. It provides fresh air opportunities to students. However, there are significant reasons to keep students indoors when weather conditions are adverse. There is no national standard for keeping students indoors or allowing them to go outdoors for school recess. As a result, site principals must make the decision based upon local conditions. We trust our principals to make decisions about the safety of our youngsters in many ways. We need to trust them to make this decision. We give them some guidance, but they need to be able to have that discretion. You don't want to be making it from distance. Temperatures alone is not sufficient to control decision-making. Wind chill, rain, ice, snow, other factors have to be considered. Not all students, and that's true of a lot of students who come to our schools, have sufficient layered clothing to withstand extreme cold and other weather factors, even if we try. Student safety is most important consideration. Decisions aren't made with a broad brush. We can encourage outdoor recess, but ultimate decisions must rest with the building principal at the local school site. Now, there are a number of things we can do. We can advise parents to provide layered clothing, including hats and gloves. We can also carry a supply of our own for some youngsters who don't have it, who don't come prepared. And that sometimes is reality. We can reschedule recess to some degree for a warmer part of the day if possible, maybe a little bit later in the morning rather than earlier. Difficult because there's a lot of other factors going on. We can shorten the time spent outside, mix indoor with outdoor time. Maybe it's 10 minutes outside rather than the full time. And we can differentiate which students participate either by age or by condition when circumstances allow. And obviously we have to closely monitor certain students who may be more susceptible to cold conditions. I will direct principals to keep a log of the days when outdoor recess is not implemented. And we'll collect the data and review it this spring to see what patterns emerge. In the interim, it's my strong recommendation that principal discretion be maintained. And we trust our principals to make safety decisions regarding students. This is just one of the many safety decisions that they must make on a daily basis. And I provided a chart for you to look at, which we'll provide to them, and they've been provided with some of this material in the past, to look at this stuff to see exactly how to make these decisions maybe a little bit more scientifically.
Ms. Mastone?
Ms. Belson, did you send it to the parents who voiced their concern, this letter?
We will once, we're through tonight.
Okay.
I think, I wanted to present it to you, get feedback that you have, but we'll send this out.
Mr. Benedetto?
Thank you. Mr. Superintendent, does the principal decide whether there's indoor or outdoor recess for the whole building?
Well, every building has its own culture, but I will now make it imperative upon the teacher to consult with the principal.
So, I know other school districts might announce whether it's indoor or outdoor recess for the whole school, so that way some teachers aren't holding their kids in while other teachers are letting them out. So that's just a suggestion in the protocol, so that way it's not like some teachers get cold easily and they might want to do different activities inside when other teachers are getting out more often because they're just like that, and that's what they. So that would be a strong suggestion from me, to have a whole school either in or out, an announcement made each day, so that way,
Well, I want to be careful. Sometimes an older child can go out, a younger child may not be able to go out. There may be some mitigating circumstances, but the emphasis will be on having the school work as a unit as much as possible, and the principal consult with those teachers who might have a particular reason for not wanting to do it. I want to maintain principal discretion, but I also want to encourage them to not prevent outdoor recess just on a cavalier basis. But I do want them to have some discretion because there are individual situations. There may be a class in which some of the youngsters have severe colds or have some colds or just come back from colds. There may be some youngsters with other considerations on ground cover, ice on the playground, or whatever the case may be. All these things need to be thought about. So we trust our principals to make decisions. We've got to give them discretion, but we'll monitor it, log it, and then review to see what the pattern has been.
Just as a follow-up Can we monitor which classrooms get out and which classrooms
Yes,
don't?
and monitor the whole thing.
Is that going to be part of it?
And I wouldn't want teachers just simply to say, I'm not going out because I don't want to go out. It's really got to be a situation where there's a reason
Right.
for not doing it.
I think
Generally
that's the
based on
goal.
environmental conditions, but there may be a few other human conditions that require a consideration on a given day. Okay?
Mr. Scarry?
Mr. Superintendent, I was really glad to see this report, and I think it's about time that we issue guidelines across the board. And at the same time, I have the utmost faith in my principals and teachers, and except there are always a few parents that want to undermine the educator's role. And I would hope that this gets out and the point is well taken and that there won't be any commotion in the future.
Well, I think, people have different opinions, and I understand that. Some people are hardier than other people. Some people ski on a regular basis, and other people have never been on a mountain. But the reality is that, we need to have some sort of balance in a school,
Right.
and we need to respect the right of the principal to make a judgment, and then we'll monitor it.
Right.
We'll monitor it.
I'm in thorough agreement. Move the paper, Madam Chairman.
On the motion to receive and place on file this report, Ms. Cunyo.
I just want to say just to be careful and pigeonhole everybody, only because you also have to take in consideration the ages of the students in the classes. I mean, it's a little bit different from a kindergartner than it is a fifth grader. So to say the whole school or not the whole school is a little bit delicate.
I just think we got to use our common sense,
There's a motion on the floor to receive and place on file, seconded by Ms. Cunyo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Financial report.
Madam Mayor, we'll call upon our Director of Finance Administration, Kirstine, who's been working real hard and doing a great job to deliver the financial report.
Good evening. Mr. Benedetto. Table it.
Sure.
There's a motion on the floor to table this report for our next meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
Great presentation.
Sorry. We will hold on to it, though. Motion on the floor for suspension of the rules to move item 12, negotiations and legal matters, to the end of the agenda. On the motion, offered by Ms. Vanderklut, seconded by Ms. Cunyo. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Suspension is granted. New business. School committee resolutions. Be it resolved that the Medford School Committee has expressed its sincere condolences to the family of William Quealy. Mr. Quealy was the father of Allison Quealy, McGlynn School social studies teacher. Be it resolved that the Medford School Committee express its sincere condolences to the family of Aloysius Kumzak. Mr. Kuzmax was the father of McGlynn School math teacher David. Sorry. Be it resolved that the Medford School Committee has expressed its sincere condolences to the family of Betsy Zeckman. Betsy was the 3-year-old daughter of Christian Zeckman, an English teacher at the McGlynn School. Betsy was born with a very rare defect and lived much longer than expected. Be it resolved that the Medford School Committee has expressed its sincere condolences to the family of William Lyons. Mr. Lyons was the brother of Charles Lyons, retired superintendent, director of Shawshene Valley Regional Technical High School. If everyone could all please rise for a moment of silence on the passing of these citizens. Thank you very much. Is there a motion to go into executive session for item 12, negotiations and legal matters?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Benedetto.
Adjourned. There is one item on the requested reports list that is missing, and I'm going to ask Superintendent to add it. On December 5th, we asked for a protocol for out-of-school time issues to be added to the list.
I'm sorry, say that again, I'm sorry.
Protocol for items that teachers have become aware of out-of-school time issues. Remember,
Out-of-school issues.
Yeah, out-of-school issues.
Okay.
Like social media issues. Yeah. And also you added one earlier this evening.
Yes. I forget what that is. I didn't write.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Mr. Superintendent, could we also add a report for school lunches, where we are and if we see any expectations on having to raise them for the next school year, so we can, I think I've raised this question already this year.
We have a discussion of cafeteria employees' contracts coming up in executive session.
Okay.
And we'll bring a report in, at subsequent time.
I think you're talking the revolving fund?
No, I'm
School
talking about
lunch-
cost for
School lunch cost.
school lunch costs, or a report
Okay.
if
We
there's,
can ask for a report for
Yeah.
the next meeting from
Okay.
Ms. Kirstein.
that's what I'm requesting.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
On the motion that we go into executive session, offered by, no? You have
Yes, but
something you wanted to speak on?
I just want to say something. I just want to congratulate.
Cunyo.
I want to congratulate Brittany Lanzilli and the Lanzilli family. Brittany is a graduate of MHS of 2014, and she has been named to the 2017 U.S. Women's National University Team. They will compete in the 2017 Winter World University Games. So I want to congratulate Brittany and their family.
Congratulations to the Lanzilli family. Is there a motion to go into
Now there's a
executive
motion,
session
yes.
offered by Ms. Mastone, seconded by Ms. Kretz? Roll call vote, Ms. Vanderklut.
Yes.
Yes, we will now enter executive session. How's it sound? Yeah, I know.